Churches in Italy reopened for public masses yesterday, and some have concerns over how Holy Communion is being distributed.
È ovvio che non è la stessa cosa, bisogna avere molta cura.
One parish priest notes gloves are needed to distribute communion, which are being washed afterwards. The protocol states priests and ministers must wear gloves and masks and avoid direct contact with parishioners. Pope Francis asked everyone to follow the rules given in order to protect others. Edward Pentin, Rome correspondent for EWTN's National Catholic Register, joins us now. Ed, so good to see you.
Good to see you, Tracy. Good to be back.
Well, Ed, the Italian bishops and Italian government worked together and signed a joint protocol to allow public masses to resume. What are some of the main changes to Mass now?
Well, first of all, it should be pointed out that the Mass has never really ended here. Of course, the priests have been celebrating privately, but public Masses were suspended. But major changes perhaps that people are noticing are that the sign of the peace is no longer exchanged, that you have to wear masks and there's social distancing at Mass now, and you can't have more than a certain number of people in a church at one time for Mass, depending on the size of the church. There's thermal temperature scanning at the basilicas here, but probably the biggest change is the priests are required to wear masks and disposable gloves when distributing Holy Communion.
Ed, what's been the reaction to public Mass returning? What are people saying?
Well, many, of course, are overjoyed after having 2 months of Masses suspended here and to be back to be able to celebrate the sacraments again. And churches seem to be fuller than usual, especially for daily Masses. But there are, as I say, concerns about these disposable gloves. People have said that the body of Christ should not be handled in such a way, and people are concerned about what happens to the gloves afterwards. And they wonder whether they really do offer protection that the government and the bishops have said they do. And not all priests are sure about what to do about this, and there are alternatives in terms of using tweezers or other ways to distributing Holy Communion.
Ed, do you think these changes in Italy, do you think they could become standard for churches around the world?
Well, I mean, it's interesting because all the measures that have come from Italy, of course, was the most heavily hit by the coronavirus at the beginning. And the way that Rome directed this and the way the Italian bishops directed what the Masses should do, or how the celebration of Masses should be carried out, was kind of emulated worldwide. But I think bishops will adapt according to, of course, to their local situation, and whether the church should follow what the government says so closely, because the government tends to see the Mass and the sacraments as non-essential. And the churches or the bishops have tended to go along with that view. And I think there's a will that if this happens again, that the bishops have a little bit more autonomy and decide themselves the best way to go ahead with this.
Well, Ed, thanks so much for coming on and sharing your insight with us. We really appreciate it. Edward Pentin, Rome correspondent for EWTN's National Catholic Register. Thanks again, Ed.
Thank you, Tracy.